Harms you. So let's spend 1 minute on it while we're at it, while we're having fun. TJ they're very different. Okay, they're very different in how they're made. Not just, and again, there is a barrier. There is a plateau barrier that is created if we use the same language that has been used for the last number of years, evolved slightly to describe, well, Henry's wrestling, but TJ is also a wrestler. That's true. But Henry won a gold medal. Absolutely true. But TJ, man, he took down Dominic Cruz. Whatever you want to do. But TJ is a better striker. This will not give us the truth of this fight. These two operate different. They run a different operating system. TJ Dillashaw runs a different operating system than every other fighter. And it goes back to what Telvin was saying, is Dwayne and TJ the greatest fighter-coach combo of all time? If you happen to join us for Amanda Nunes, is she the greatest female fighter of all time? Maybe, but it's probably right now. But the sample size is so small and the amount of time is so short that let's see in 10 years or 20 years. And same thing with TJ and Dwayne. I'll tell you one thing about the way Dwayne thinks that I admire. I like that guy. I learn a lot from him, and he's been very generous with me. He's not interested in this being the best him or his system being. He's interested in what his fucking game is going to look like, his understanding, the way he's going to make this game happen, the way he's going to coach TJ in the next round of TJs in 2030. Dwayne's like 42 or something. Do you want to look it up real quick? Dwayne's like fucking 42 or something like that. And you know what a martial arts sensei can be? A guy like Dwayne at 62, he can't even imagine.
Yeah, he's 40.
He's 40. He's fucking 40. And TJ's not even 30. Is he 30? Is TJ 30? Tell me. Imagine he's interested in what he's going to become. So at this stage where he's going, and
TJ's 32.
TJ's 32 and Dwayne is 40. So what matters, and I say this all the time, when I'm commentating TKO, we do it on Fight Pass, and there's this crop of great fighters, and right now this one beat that one, but that one's here, and then this guy. What matters is where these fucking guys are at 28, and they're like 21 and 19 and stuff. It's like all of this matters today. It's vital to them. It's a stop on the path. It's like, now I have the belt. I don't have it, but I will have it, all of that stuff. But what matters is what they can become, and they've come up understanding that all the way along. And Dwayne has come up as a martial artist understanding that. And TJ has developed understanding that. And if they continue the way they'll continue, is they're accelerating. He's adding layer and layer of understanding. And we had lunch together in Saskatchewan. And he was saying, I'm very careful of what I reveal out in the world, what he puts on his online university. He said, what I say in interviews, he goes, and what I'm saying right now in front of you. And I took that as an immense compliment. Like, it's like, I don't want this guy knowing too much, because he's meaning that I'm the type of guy who wants to share all this. Oh, you wouldn't believe what fucking cool shit's happening. He's like, he wants to be, there's an iPhone 14 right now, but they're not going to release it yet. Right. And Dwayne's got TJ's an iPhone 12, but you're only letting him see. There was a game when I was a kid, just show enough to win. Have you ever heard of that game?
Yeah.
Literally just show enough to win. That's what they're doing, right? Like, he's a fucking complex thing. But you know how you beat complexity in theory? With simplicity, with beautiful simplicity. And Henry, sometimes you can work on so many levels, so many planes, so many levels of understanding. And for Dwayne, we were talking about, and this again a couple of years ago, so he's way down the road, but we were talking about, something as simple as orthodox stance, southpaw stance, and squared stance. And he said, that might make you think there's 3 stances. And he said, but really there's no stances. So like, what do you mean there's no stances? Well, is any of them really a stance? Because it's just a moment in time. You could stabilize into a position en route to another position, and you can stay in that one for some length of time. But if you call it a stance or the way you have to stand, you're limiting yourself again, right? We were talking about ranges. Now it's very common. Only 4 years ago, nobody fucking talked about range at all. People didn't even know that there was it was not discussed or commentated in 2013 that there was a kicking range and a punching range. That just didn't exist, a range 1 is right here, and a second range is here, and a third range is there, and a fourth range is kicking, and then a non-combat range or a one step out from combat range out there. That's very normal now, but 2013, that people didn't know. Really, there isn't 4 ranges. Really, there's easily 8. There's here, and then here, but that space in between, what's that? Okay, well, that's a range too. And then between here and here, well, shit, there's a range. Now there's 8. But really, there's not 8. There's 16 or 32. And if you look at it that way, there's none at all. Like Dwayne's Southpaw versus Orthodox versus Square, it's 3 stances or no stances. There's no ranges because there's all ranges. You know what I mean?
Range, like in freeze frame, when the frame's frozen, yes, you see a range, but it's so fluid and so changing.
And Mark is saying in freeze frame, if we go from what we are calling 1 to the edge of 4, there's not 4. There's every frame you can freeze, you could call 1. Mm-hmm. So you could call that 36, but if you have a better camera, it's 64, it's 300, it's thousands. All of that's relevant. It isn't range 1, 2, 3, 4, boxing range, kickboxing range. And it's still talked about that way because that's the language we use. John Jones was just saying, I didn't want to keep Alexander Gustafsson in boxing range, so I kept him on the outside. He says it because that's how it's described, but that's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's how you see it. So all of these fucking things, and these are things that I'm bringing up now and have brought up, but they're not where my mind is. There's shit that I want to talk about that's way fucking weirder than this, but I can't talk about it until, if I'm discussing something as simple as this, if I get to do it through somebody that you respect, Dwayne or Faraz or whatever, you might then accept it a little bit, and then it become a bit normal. And when it does, we can introduce another thing and another thing and another thing. But by the time people are saying boxer versus kickboxer, striker versus grappler, you're fucking 18 layers back. And it goes further and further and further in understanding. Once you understand it different, you express it different, you feel it different, you live it different. That's TJ Dillashaw. That's Dwayne Ludwig. And I'm just giving you a few things that don't sound completely insane right now as best I can. But there's fucking way crazier that I'm really hopeful that I can find ways to simplify in such a way that it sounds normal, like I'm not saying anything at all. And so it becomes a normal part of conversation. Because, and I'm not tooting my own horn, or at least I'm not intending to, but if you go back, I was doing a breakdown of Conor McGregor, and we ended up calling a part of it the Flim Flam. It's an early Conor McGregor one, the Flim Flam and stuff. And in it, I'm talking about distance management. That's couldn't be fucking more normal now. But I ask you to go find anything before that one where in any public written, particularly video or audio, where somebody talked about that. It just didn't happen. I heard it in gyms. I was taught it moving, but it just wasn't a part of the conversation. It didn't mean it didn't exist. It's just nobody talked about it. And if nobody's talking about it, then nobody's really hearing it. Nobody's understanding it. We think in terms of words. I mean, I've said this before. Try to think of any concept that you can possibly think of without using words. It's very difficult. Our thoughts are formed based on words. And until one or two of us take something as fucking today as simple and principled and basic as range management or distance management, now everybody's, Stephen Thompson's fantastic at distance management. Well, shit, that Fucking Bruce Lee talked about that in the 70s, but it wasn't discussed in a setting of talking about combat on television. Now it is. But that isn't the be-all, end-all. Like, now we know it's just distance management. All he's got to do is keep him at distance. It's distance management. No, that's that layer. There's fucking 50 more layers of comprehension. We just can't discuss them because they sound like nonsense until you get a layer or two together that they make sense. You know, so get somebody to show you a computer in 1963 and describe it. Well, you can't. But if you explain this is a typewriter to this and information travels this way, you just do it slowly. And fucking, if I think on some level I understood, or I do have concepts that I'd love to get across, but it's going to take a lot of work to do it in a meaningful way that'll, hopefully enlighten people and make them love martial arts more and study in a way that might help their lives the way, my life is not perfect. Nobody's is, but it's a lot better because I studied martial arts. It would be a shit show if I didn't. It would be a shit show. I wouldn't fucking be able to sort out anything, but studying martial arts helped me do that. So I'm hoping that's what happens. If I think that I've got a few layers that I wish I could get to but can't because I'll sound like a lunatic, fucking Dwayne shit is so far beyond that you would just think you would literally, if he was talking to whoever his key confidant is, or if he, even when I speak to him and he's kind enough to give me some of his thoughts, you'd think he was schizophrenic. And I don't say that lightly. You would literally think he's not in touch with reality. He's talking about planes of stuff and the way that you manipulate time and stuff. But once you understood it, it wouldn't be insanity. It would be very fucking sane. It's what is happening. We just don't have the words or the understanding or the base to understand it. Anywho, TJ Dillashaw versus Henry Cejudo early analysis. Haven't really looked at that fight much. I've danced around it. But that's what I'm going to try to find some ways to get across some of the simple principles. I can't explain what Dwayne and TJ are doing. Nobody can. They can explain what they're seeing. Very intelligent people that love to study martial arts can explain what they're seeing. But that doesn't mean you can explain what they're doing, not from their standpoint. However, we will try. When we get to this, I will outline. There's a few key things I'm working on. I'm trying to simplify a complex idea of good fighters decipher patterns, and great fighters make good fighters believe they've deciphered patterns. It's not a complex idea, but I want to get it across in such a way that on TSN, I can demo that in a cage for people who just came over from watching Canadian Football League. That work will allow me to dig in here a little bit different. Maybe we'll try to get Dwayne on the phone too. He's so brilliant, and it's so I'd like to.
We can do a Skype interview with him.
Yeah,
we could.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that I have some questions that I can ask him that you would find interesting that he's not asked often. But so Henry is brilliant. Henry's different. Henry thinks on different planes and in different approaches. I've spoken to his coaching staff at length in the lead up to the Demetrius Johnson thing, off the air, off the record, had conversations with them about it. They're brilliant. Different. Complexity isn't always better. It isn't always better. I'm sure Dwayne has found ways to go complex, simplify. That's what true knowledge is. But how do you beat complexity? Sometimes you beat it with simplicity. You get really fucking good at the things that Henry's really good at. And that's where we'll start the early conversation. But I thank you for humoring me. This stream of thinking thing is very, very pleasant, and it's a real gift, and it's very helpful. Not just pointing me in the direction of the next things to peel and the next places to look and the next thing to try to figure out how to explain so it doesn't sound either like nothing. Because if you don't understand something, sometimes it just sound like nonsense. If somebody tries to explain to me how a carburetor works, I'll be like, that guy didn't fucking say anything to me. But it can sound like gibberish. And the job isn't just to understand fighting or to make fun 1-minute breakdowns. The job is to do the mental labor to find simplified ways to explain complex ideas in ways that not only do they not sound complex, but they sound like you knew it all along. That's what the goal is. But it's also, something as simple as recommending books will remind me to go back and look at things that are helpful. And so I'm really thankful Thankful for going into New Year's. I'm thankful for this podcast, and I'm thankful for you guys, and I'm thankful for Mark always working so hard and getting better all the time with us. And 2019 is going to be a very big year, and I appreciate you coming along for the ride, and hopefully I can bring some value to you on the ride. But until next time, Happy New Year. Enjoy the hostilities, my friends.